Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of God, welcome to another episode of the most offensive podcast ever. I'm Slimmy V, and today I am going to be talking about forgiveness and reconciliation. Let me start out with two scriptures from the Bible. In Matthew 5:23 and 24. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and then remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar, go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. In other words, in plain English, it is saying, before you can deal with God or bring any gifts to God, you must first reconcile. Okay? If someone had something against you or you had something against them, you must try to release that. Either forgive them or reconcile with them. And then after that's done, then you can go and deal with God. Think about that. In order for you to deal with God, you must make peace with your family, your friends, or your neighbors. Before you can be in a business with God, you must make amends with them. You must reconcile your differences. So now let me give you my take on forgiveness and reconciliation. This is not easy. Forgiveness doesn't always have to do with reconciliation. Let me repeat that. Most people probably listening are not understanding what I just said. Forgiveness doesn't always have to do with reconciliation. Okay? Let me define to you what reconciliation means. The restoration of friendly relations. Understand what I'm saying? Reconciliation is restoring what you used to have. Just because you forgive someone, it doesn't always mean that things can go back to normal, that things can go back to the way they used to be. According to the Bible, you can have forgiveness without reconciliation. How is that so, Slim? However, you cannot have reconciliation without forgiveness. In other words, forgiveness is the common denominator. Let me move on. Number one, you can have full forgiveness plus full reconciliation. That's one choice. Second choice, you can have full forgiveness plus partial reconciliation. The third choice, you can have full forgiveness with no reconciliation. Reconciliation is not always the key when forgiving someone. Okay? Now I understand forgiving someone is tough. It's hard. It's not something easy to do because that person that did whatever they did to you hurts. It broke you into something that you no longer recognize. It made you into something that you no longer know. Your character have been mutated and deformed. You may become this bitter person, filled with anger. So forgiveness is tough. Forgiving somebody is tough. What's tougher? You know what's tougher? Asking for forgiveness. Asking for forgiveness is even tougher, excuse me, than forgiving someone. Because asking for forgiveness brings your state of mind to knowing that you did something wrong. You come to reality like, oh, I hurt somebody. You admitting your sin. You admitting your mistake. Yeah. So asking for forgiveness is even tougher. Now, what's the toughest of them all? Number 3, forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself is even the toughest thing that anyone can do. Why? You go around hoping that someone would forgive you. You're asking for forgiveness. No one is willing to forgive you. So you down on yourself. You go through depression. You even want to commit suicide. You feel bad. You don't know what to do anymore. And you feel like hurting yourself is the best thing. But I tell you today, no. You need to forgive yourself today. Anyone that's going through that trouble, share this video. Forgive yourself. You need to move on. You need to stop holding on to the past. When you hold on to the past, you can't move on to the future. Let me continue with how this whole forgiveness thing and reconciliation is really tough. Number 1, these are questions that I'm going to ask you, possibly 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 questions. How do you forgive a father who rapes his child? How do you forgive that? You the daughter, you grow up. How do you look your dad in the eye and forgive them? Now here's the thing. You might be able to forgive them, but you might not be able to reconcile the relationship. Number 2, adultery. Your wife cheated on you with another man. I'm not talking about going out. I'm not talking about dates. I'm not talking about texting. I'm not even talking about sexting. Sending nude pictures. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about real life sexual relationship with another man. How does the husband look the wife in the eye and forgive her? Now, you may be able to forgive her, but how do you reconcile the relationship? How does the relationship go back to normal? That's number 2. Number 3, a wife that keeps, no, not a wife, but a mother that keeps a child away from the father. Forces the father to pay his child support, purposely keeps the child away from the father. How does the father, who knows when that child grows up, has resentment against the dad for not being there, or possibly now have resentment against the mother, how does the father forgive the mother? How does the child forgive the parent? Number 4, child abuse. You are a father and you physically abuse your son or your daughter. Beat them. Not only physical, but you verbally and mentally abuse them. How do they look you in the eye and forgive you? How do you reconcile that relationship between a father and a child, or a mother and a child? Number 5, the teacher verbally or putting down a child. How does the child forgive this teacher? You're in class, you look up to this teacher, someone who's supposed to open up your minds to the new world and teach you things. How do you forgive this person? How do you reconcile that relationship? See, this is why I said at the beginning, you can forgive, but you don't always have to reconcile. Forgiveness is for yourself. Peace, serenity, oneness with God. Hate for someone or holding a grudge is oneness with Satan. Let me repeat that. Hate for someone else and holding a grudge is oneness with Satan. Satan rejoices when you have hate in your heart. Why? Because where hate is, God cannot reside. God cannot exist where hatred dwells. Focus on your inner self to somehow make right the wrong that was done to you. It's imperative that you do. I'm not saying to forget the past. That's impossible. Only God can do that. What I'm simply saying is to learn from it and understand it, dissect it. Try to break it apart. Try to figure it out. The past has created your character. It has made you who you are today. What good does it do to hold their sins on you against them? What good does it do to you? Let it go and move on. There's nothing you could do about the past. The past is past. It's been done. You need to move on. You need to move forward. There's a future out there waiting for you, and you need to go get that. Like I said, forgiveness is for you. You do not have to reconcile the relationship with whoever you have an issue with. But you need to forgive. You need to let go. You need to leave it behind. The past is the past for a reason. You keep living in the past, you cannot move on. The past become your present. How do you move on? Now, you must take what the past has molded you into and use it to create a life of happiness, not a life of excuses. This is not easy. This is very difficult. This is hard. How do you forgive someone that spat in your face, that kicked dust on you, that basically killed you while you were alive? They physically, mentally, and spiritually destroyed you. How do you forgive that? You must look within yourself to do that for yourself. Doesn't mean that you do it for someone else, but you do it for yourself. You forgive yourself. You let it go. You forgive and you move on, holding on to it, holding out for a sorry, holding out for a forgiveness. There's nothing to you but keeps you in the past. You need to move forward. Let me end this with a scripture. Matthew 18:21 and 22. So then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? You know what Jesus said? I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times. As much time as possible. You do not have to reconcile. Forgiveness is for you. It releases all the burden, all the hate in your heart. That way, when you remove that hate, God will now live in your heart and you will have peace. I'm Slimmy V, and this is the most offensive podcast ever. God bless, stress less, and let Yahweh give you rest. I'm out. Peace.